Hello, and welcome to Chessbooks98. This is just a short one. I've got some books about certain world champions, some of which I've got, most of which I've got from eBay. So if they're not new to the world, they're new to me. So I thought I'd show them to you. The camera's in the wrong place as usual. Well, anyway. The first of these, it takes itself very seriously and is a pretty heavyweight textbook, but for goodness sake. This is Tal's Best Games. It's the middle of a trilogy, all written by Karoli. Tibor Karoli. I can't pronounce it, can I? I think he's Hungarian, isn't he? It's published by Quality Chess. So if you'd like more information, I hope you do, www.qualitychess, all one word, .co.uk. It was published in 2015. So it's been out for 8 years, or perhaps slightly less. And Quality Chess are based in Glasgow. It says here, and I think they still are. And this takes us from the 1960, when Tal became world champion, to 1971, when he was revving up to be a rival. Sadly, they didn't get to play in a match, to Bobby Fischer. It would have been brilliant if the two had had a match. I hope you would agree. Yeah, the middle volume was 3-part investigation. I suppose that's what I said, wasn't it? He played well in the candidates and earned the right to play Botvinnik. It's unbelievable to me. I'm sure it wasn't unbelievable to Botvinnik that he got the title back. Tal, obviously, his health was as variable as could be perceived. And they go through the games with a very fine-tooth comb, and also with all the help of modern technology. Nothing wrong with that. That's what you want. This is not a book that could be recommended to people new to chess books, chess literature in general, or young players. But my goodness. Let me show you the size of the text. Sometimes I worry that my eyesight's going and I can't read these things off properly. Well, I can read that properly. Yeah. So this is from the 1960s, when Tal's form was up and down, and Spassky and Petrosian were hogging the limelight, and Bobby Fischer was revving up to be a bad boy. Tal's games could never be overlooked, nor could they be ignored. If you want entertainment, if you want blood and thunder, this is where to look. Just about everything is covered in minute detail. There's also a small sprinkling of photographs, I think. Having said that, I can't find any. There were something. Yes. Tal's results on a pie chart. You'll remember pie charts from school, I expect. Anyway. Tal's marriage to Sally Landau. And in 1970, they were officially divorced, it says. I don't imagine Tal was hard up for a girlfriend. But that's nothing to do with chess, is it? Nothing to do at all. There's 58 games, 59, so it looks like it might be. There's about 70 games, and there's probably quite a few games in the text, and normally aren't there? And that's the way I like it. I mean, again, I wouldn't criticize. You can compare this with W.H. Cousins' book Tales Since 1960, or the Batsford book by Bernard Cafferty. There's plenty of books on Tal, aren't there? And you should also compare it with the Annan Russell book on the Tal Botvinnik World Championship match. And all of these books have pluses and minuses. And the biggest plus is it is about Tal. And the minus is that sometimes it isn't possible to devote your whole life to studying the Latvian. It's a wonderful, wonderful player. And there he is. And there he is playing Botvinnik, which I'm sure he did with great respect. Not an easy one. There he is. Now the next book, again, was a purchase online by Linda and Linda. There you are, the two Lindas, father and son, I think, and with the forward by Andy Soltis and annotations by Carsten Müller, who will be used to reading about his endgame books. These pages are rich in detail, it says, not just about Euwe. Extensive semi-biographies for Alekhine, Botvinnik, Boglebov, Spielman, Capa, Blanca, Bulkeres, Geta Maroczy, Flor, Vera Menchik, and Reti, as well as lesser-known players such as Kolle, Jan Hangdonner, and Cello Landau. In other words, fellow Dutchman. This is quite a friendly book. It doesn't deal, as I rather hoped it might, with too many of Euwe's games after he lost the World Championship and after the war. He did go back into teaching, I know, and he likened the chess world to a volcano, and he could put his toes over the rim and even perhaps look down, but not get engulfed in lava. This is called Max Euwe, the 5th world chess champion. There's Euwe looking scholarly, as he always did on the cover. Linda and Linda have written several books. I've got that one on Steinitz. I think there's one other I've got. Can't remember. I would have to check. What can I say? How can I summarize it? It has acknowledgements by Annan Russell, who I mentioned earlier. Yes, this is a Russell Enterprises book. I didn't even realize. In other words, it was published in America. Lots of Queen's Gambit declines and Nimzo Indians and Queen's Indians, which is slightly unusual, isn't it? And only 4 Sicilians and 9 Slavs. So it's openings of the period. How could you avoid it being otherwise? Euwe's tournament record, which starts in 1918, so we were still hard at it in the First World War. It runs through 1962, and then he took a break. And then he played in several correspondence and probably just sort of token events. He played matches against various people. mostly in the either in the Olympiads or just representative matches playing for the Netherlands. I get told off repeatedly for saying Holland, so I'll make the effort to say the Netherlands. It's in algebraic notation with lots of diagrams and notes. And I very, very strongly recommend that you get one book by Euwe. The Dover From My Games is and he goes up to when he was world champion. So obviously this also deals with his more mature years. And if you're interested in reading the background of the history of these great matches, and they are great matches, taking on Alekhine and beating him, then well, this is a good place to come. So there's that. Just to say again, Max Euwe, the Dutchman. This is something that arrived today. It's 2 matches covered here. Jose Raul Capablanca, this gentleman here, and his match against Alekhine, but it also includes his match against Lasker. Lasker was an old dog. He won the title back in the 19th century, beating Steinitz. And Lasker did an interesting thing. He resigned the title and approached the match in 1921 as the challenger. The games are in English descriptive notation, which might please some people. And others, again, probably as I do, don't really mind one with the other. The text is a bit small in the second half of the book, which is the enormously long 34 games, I think, match at Buenos Aires between Alekhine and Capablanca, and a bit of the background of how Alekhine put together the fundings and everything is dealt with. Most of the games were, apart from the first one, Queen's Gambit declines. Obviously, there's some variation and deviation about the move orders. I mean, here's one which is not a Queen's Gambit with 3 G3, Bishop G2, and Castle Short, and Alekhine Blade Knight F3, and then B6, and then Bishop B7. So yes, that was something different, wasn't it? The notes are not very deep, but I think they are more than adequate, and they are played by an example of the games annotated in the way that you might get in a newspaper column, where the result is more important perhaps than pin sharp accuracy. And you may not want that, and you may have these games in other books, but it's nice to have them all together. And here's a picture of Alekhine here, just show you that. There he is. They call him Dr. Alekhine there. And lots of fun have been had proving, like Dr. Johnson, that he didn't have a doctorate, and he did have a doctorate, and all of this and more. It certainly wasn't in medicine. Esteemed Dr. Lasker, replying to your letter proposing to resign the match you were engaged in with Mr. Capablanca, I am pleased to inform you that, after informing Mr. Capablanca and the committee of your intention, and inasmuch as neither the committee nor Mr. Capablanca had any objections thereto, I have no hesitation in also accepting your proposition. I remain sincerely yours, Alberto Ponce. Well, that is big of them. There was a rumour afloat that a committee would insist upon the reduction of the fee, but I'm happy to say that it was altogether groundless, the committee never intending to thus darken their well-known generosity. some people. Eh? And here's Capa, a picture that's been reproduced about as many times as the, I was going to say the Mona Lisa, but maybe not quite. And there's the cover, which is fine. And this is a little Dover. I bought it for £5, but you might see it in hardback, or you might see it in paperback for less. But it's worth a £5, I think. Unabridged republication of the original 1921 editions that came out as soon as the match was concluded, and the 1928 edition, so that's the year after, title matches in one volume. And it has a new introduction by Irving Chernev, who better, the American master and prolific author and journalist. Yes, so if it's, he writes a fair bit actually. Well, yes, several pages. Well, that's not to be missed. I mean, I can't summarise it all, but it's about 10 pages, 8 pages. It was a splendid and exciting match, one which enriched the world with some magnificent games, the happy consequence of a great struggle between two of the greatest players who ever lived. And that was his summary in 1976. No, that is not messing around, is it? So there we are, a book to look for. The last book I have for you is a forgotten little masterpiece, which I bought as a child. Here is Karpov, almost not quite asleep, but in distant reverie maybe. And this is a book by Jimmy Adams, which is called, older readers, I hope, very much will be pleased to be reminded of it. I had a copy of this at the time, which I let go, but I saw this on eBay and I thought, oh, I've got to have it again. So I have. Quotes about Karpov. He doesn't understand anything about chess. 1964, the little boy will never become a grandmaster. He is too thin. 1968, yes, the Students' Olympiad were taken by Goofeld to the seaside, and Karpov took off all his shirt and everything and was about to go swimming or something, and Goofeld said he was so thin you could see through him. He was spectral. And I saw a picture of Karpov the other day. He was now in his 70s, and believe you me, he's not spectral. Year by year, blow by blow accounts of Karpov as a junior and all the international opportunities he got. And I've no doubt, despite the fact that he shone behind the scenes, and he was a student of economics, wasn't he? He went through to university level, so I mean, he did have other things to think about in the way that young do. And his qualification for the World Junior, rivaling Vaganian, who also played in the World Junior. They're not the same year as Karpov. Foreman now sets about a thorough preparation with Karpov, teaching him to realize his strengths and weaknesses and completely assessing his capabilities. Knowledge of the opening was rather superficial. Yes, it's interesting that he played in the 1971 Alekhine Memorial. He did incredibly well. But it wasn't that he had poor knowledge of the openings. It was just simply that he had maybe limited experience in certain setups and had concentrated, and correctly so, on other aspects of the game. Yes, he played in the World Junior final in 1969 and was undefeated. In fact, he only dropped 2 draws one against a Doyen, who died some recently, and Kaplan, who'd won the event. It was held every 2 years in those days, in 1967. And the Scot Roddy Mackay, who's still around. I met him 4 or 5 years ago at Eton College at the problem solving. We had a little chat, which I enjoyed. And Karpov playing on the junior boards for Russia. Not doing too well here. He's got half out of 2 against a Doyen and half out of 2 against Ripley. And here he is going to South America and doing absolutely brilliantly and playing in the Soviet Championships. And well, I hate to say it, but the rest is history, and you will know the story as well, if not better than I do. Here he is playing for the USSR team on board 5 in the Olympiad. And on top board in the Students' Olympiad in 1972. Well, anyway. And then you had the USSR 1, USSR 2, and USSR juniors. When we say juniors, we mean youth. We don't mean just little kids. And here he is winning at San Antonio, the the fried chicken. Forget the how bit. And here he is coming second in the most wonderful USSR championship, which I'm always pleased to remember, the 1973, when having lost the world title to Fischer, they finally made the effort to get out of bed and compete. And not every great player is there, but it's a pretty fair sprinkling of the best players of all time. He was playing a national championship, and he played Keres, and he played Smyslov, he played Karpov, and he played Korchnoi. If you can get through all that lot, the World Championship, or climbing at Mount Everest will be a doddle. And here's the games, beautifully done by Jimmy. If you consider there was no chess base in those days, he had to type out every move on his typewriter. So there they all are. Look at the loving care that he took. Look at it. Just look at it. Karpov came to England. Don't know how many times. 3 or 4 maybe. Here he is giving Simmels in London, I think, mostly. My goodness, did some strong players turn out to play him. Here he is playing my friend Sans Dickinson. Sadly no longer with us, but that's as may be. I'm pleased to say his name. And here is Karpov edging closer and closer to the world title, which was his by default, wasn't it, when Fischer didn't turn up? Well, didn't play at all. Interesting notes to the games. Games against perhaps forgotten players. Mike Wills. Simon Spivak when aged 11. George Dixon, Scottish international, wasn't he? Tony Cullen, who wrote that book about 19th century players. I'm still to get a copy of that, actually. Game against Ron Spurgeon, Bob Lynn, the one and only Mr. Steve Cunliffe, chess journalist. Nice chap too. Haven't seen him for years. Karpov's games, unannotated, but nevertheless presently presented. Double columns, nothing wrong with that, is there? Look, see? Don't the games have notes? Not all of them. Some games from Hastings. This game against Ray Keane from Hastings, where Ray was frog marched into playing a Sicilian, which not his best thing with either colours, but nevertheless. Games from the World Junior, which I mentioned earlier, didn't I? And games from Hastings. We played Michael Franklin. Talking about Karpov's stakeout of pawns. And he also mentions this in an article written about the same time in BCM. There we are, I won't linger long. Cares for Karpov by Jimmy Adams. Well, thank you very much for listening. This has been Chess Book Reviews 98. Very much you enjoyed, and you will like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Goodbye.